Hello, hello, everyone. Today we're making our own off-grid water filter. I've always been interested in having a Berkey, but I don't have the money for a Berkey. So today we're going to use a few filters of your own choice, a couple of stainless steel stock pots. I also have a very fancy spigot that allows me to see the water level line. And we're going to lead test it just to be safe. So let's go from this to this. All right, let's start off with the stock pots. I did buy 2 stainless steel stock pots. I've seen some people do it in food grade plastic buckets. I'm avoiding plastic, so we're going to use these. And since we are using metal, I want a lead test because I don't want to introduce any more lead into my water than is already there. So we're going to read the instructions. It tells me to dip this into a little bit of water, not fully saturated, just a little bit of water. And then follow the instructions on the package of your particular lead tester. But mine had me rub it along the inside of the surface of where it's going to be in contact. My guide is on the packaging, so we could see here the color lines with no lead detected. Yay! And at the end here, we could see that's the lead detected color. We're in the clear. Good to go. Now we're going to move on to the spigot. These are the washers, silicone, and the little chrome covers. And I did opt for the water level line one. This did cost me $40. That's not entirely necessary. You could get a regular all stainless just spigot part for $10, maybe. So this, I've kind of got it mocked up how I want to have it. So I've got the one pot stacked into the other. Oh, little Bowville. This is Bowie, for anyone that hasn't met my little kitty cat, my little cap and saddle boy. Funny, when I'm editing, he actually jumped up the same way just right now and is trying to get more attention. So I'm going to mark off the part where I'm going to drill a hole with some painter's tape. Green, blue, doesn't really matter. It just kind of protects the outside of the surface. It also helps as you're drilling to keep a lot of the metal shards down. Plus it makes a great surface to mark and write on. So I'm going to use this coaster to space it for me because I want it to be as low as possible to get the most amount of water while still having some clearance from the bottom of the pan. So I'm just kind of loosely marking that off, and then I'll clean it up a little bit by hand. And it's rolling away from me. All right. So I did initially try and do this drill top down, but it wasn't getting very much security, especially since it was so high up. So I did get this first little pilot hole, but now we're moving it to the floor so I can actually get some leverage. This is a step bit, so that'll kind of, now that I got a pilot hole in there, I can kind of like graduate a little quicker and easier. Please wear shoes. Please wear shoes. Don't do what I did. I will wear shoes later in this video, but you don't want metal shards or slipping the drill, hitting your feet. But I did brace it between my legs, and that allowed me to kind of keep it from slipping around. I was my own jig, if you will. Yeah, see this, we don't need any of that. So I didn't put painter's tape on the inside of this, so it's got quite a bit of metal that's kind of melted out through the back. So I'm going to go in with a file and then try and file some of that off. Now that I've got the hole to the right size, I'm just doing a test fit for the spigot. Silicone goes on the inside with the other caps going on each end. I will be using a socket to secure this, but I want to get it on with my hands as much as possible to avoid any stripping. So this will help secure it. My particular one used a 19mm socket. So I'm gonna get that on there pretty well while also holding the spigot to secure it on the other side, as it will have a tendency to kind of turn on you. Even as tight as I did end up getting it, it does have some movement. So don't wrench it down so much that it warps like the outside of the pot, but you do want it so that obviously no water gets through. So might be a little trial and error, but I did get it pretty dang tight on here. But you'll see I do have some kind of little bits of movement that I can adjust it. And here it is. I did mark a red line where I kind of want the water to come up to without overflowing or hitting the bottom of the top of the next pot. And I'm going to mark lines around this. I'm just making a paper template so I can kind of map out where I want to drill the holes for the filters to go down through. So I'm just kind of roughly cutting out a circle that matches the pot. And I'm going to measure the center point of the circle. I'm a little bit eyeballing, but we're measuring. First, half point. And then what would be the halfway point of the halfway point to the edge? For these particular pots, let's see, I'll write it in here. 2 1/4, I think it was. 2 1/2. So 2 1/2 from the edge, and then 2 1/2 from the other edge. And just so I can get a visual, I'm taking out my filters, giving you a chance to kind of see one of the ones that I got. But I'm going to kind of place these and see kind of what the spacing is like, which to me looks pretty good. I tried using my deep punch, but it wasn't quite long enough. So I'm just going to use a small screwdriver, poke it through the hole, and then give it just kind of a little rounding, make the hole a little bigger so I can actually mark through the paper. And depending on what filter you end up putting in your filter, you might actually go for a different spacing, just depending on the width, the size, and how many filters that you're going to put in there. I'm masking off the areas where I'm going to drill. The nice thing about the green tape is I can kind of still see through where I need to drill at. And I'm not going to make the same mistake I made on the spigot hole, and I'm going to actually tape the other side as well. And since I can't really see what's on the other, I'm just going to kind of make like a blanket mask over the whole thing with the green tape. And next we're going to move on to the Pro 1 filters, or whatever filter you may have. What you're going to want to do is measure the thread diameter, not the nut that's in front, but the threading, where actually how big it needs to be to come through the bottom. Which I actually marked that wrong, and I marked the bottom side instead of the top side of the drill bit, so I stopped one step short, which, you know, always easier to make it bigger than smaller. Can't go the other way. Yeah, now I got shoes on. Protect the feet. So I'll be drilling through this. I did put a couple of 1x4s, I think, underneath that way, because the handles come up above the rim of the pot. So I didn't want those getting all like bent as I put downward pressure. And I'm just slowly stepping up my bit size, and then now I'm on to the step bit. So this should allow me to just make it as wide as I need it. And I'm checking as I go along, which is why here I thought I was done, but I actually needed one more step. But I did take the opportunity, if you can, to drill the last step through the other direction, because that will actually clear a lot of the slag or like extra metal bits from that had warped onto the inside. I did still have to do some filing, obviously, because I want that to be nice and clean. But I think that this turned out a little better, kind of coming through the opposite side. Now, depending on how many holes and how big your drill is, you may not be able to do that. But the end goal is to make it as smooth as possible, like smooth enough you could run your hand across it and not get cut. Now be careful doing that, like definitely do it slow, don't just like right. But we don't want to mar the threads of the plastic filters. Almost all of them have a plastic threads that come down through. So you don't want to get those all mucked up, and then that screws with how tight you can put on or if the washer can come on and off. So we're just going to take our time with a small file. I got these files from Harbor Freight. Honestly, one of the best deals ever. I use these files all the time. Now we're looking good. We're looking smooth. We do have to do a little work on the inside as well, not just from the back side, but we're smooth. And we're going to start washing it all out and putting it together. Now, obviously, you want to follow the instructions as per the filter that you purchase, but mine said for 2 minutes, run under cold water with a brand new clean sponge, no soap, just water, and you use the rough side of the sponge to kind of exfoliate the outside, get all of anything that may be sat on there during the production process. What I didn't realize was it had instructed me to make sure that I didn't get anything in the end, like where the water would drip out of. Now, I don't think I got any out down there, but be sure not to get some down that way. And I've got my pots washed as well, so I use that same brand new clean sponge after doing my filters with just water. Then I applied some dish soap, and I made sure that they were cleaned really well with a soapy sponge and hot water, and then allowed to dry, and anything that was going to come into contact is not being like touched by hands or touching like a yucky surface. So that's why I kind of have them like inverted like this. And I'm going to wash my hands really well before I handle the ends of the filters. So I'm just doing that now, and we're going to start putting the filters in, starting with a rubber gasket, putting it through the hole, and then applying the wing nut. Now the tension is really kind of up to you. I didn't want to wrench it down too hard because it is plastic, but I didn't want the filters also like feeling like they were like moving back and forth in the hole, so that they're nice and secure without breaking anything. So definitely it's kind of a hand feel thing. You gotta use your best judgment. So now I'm doing a test fitting. Actually, I lie. I thought I was done. Because the tension of the two pots, look at these. These are my final glamour shots. I'm actually not done, but I thought I was done. Yeah, the top pot, the weight of it with the water was actually sinking it down into the bottom pot as soon as it had water and weight in it. I went online and special ordered stainless steel brackets. It's really important. Don't just go to the hardware store and get ones with zinc or other things. You don't want that in your water supply. So I bought stainless steel screws and lock nuts from my local hardware store, but they did not have stainless steel angle brackets. So I did have to custom order those, and it came in like a 40 pack for some reason when I only need 4. So I'm just going to clean this up with a file, make sure all the edges are smooth. And then I'm using my calipers to measure the distance from the top to the bottom because it's most important that the brackets are all at the same height. So that way it can sit evenly. And I'm measuring the diameter of the inside of the grommet with the screw in it Looks like 9/32 is where I'm looking at. And that's the size hole that I want. So then as the screw kind of compresses in, it'll squeeze that grommet out and make like a seal. So now we have 4 holes drilled. We're going to start assembling all of the brackets. I do want to note that I did mine fairly low. You could certainly put these brackets higher up on the lower pot, but I have a very low clearance space between my countertops and my upper cabinets. So it's really important to me that it hit a certain height. So that's why I did the math I did where the brackets needed to be so that I could fit the clearance. Now, if you want to take advantage of the full capacity of the pot, you could certainly do these brackets taller or higher in the pot. So as you've seen, we've put the screw through the grommet, we've got the ankle bracket and the locking nut on the other side, and these are metal, so go ahead and crank her down. It shouldn't be too much fear of stripping, so get those nice and taut on there. And now we have all 4, so we're ready to rock. I was concerned a little bit about the gap between the 2 pots getting dust and other stuff, so I had this piece of silicone laying around. I put some heat shrink on each end and kind of just was so that way I can take it on and off again. But I think this will prevent things like dust and other stuff like just pet hair, whatever, getting down into the lower pot where our stock of water is. And now I'm filling the top with water. If I did this again, I would probably get a 5-inch filter because the 7 inches, the water never reaches above the filter, which is really the most absorbent part is the top of the filter. So next time around, I'm going to go with 5 inches instead of 7. I think it was overkill. If you're using the full height of your pot, the 7 might be great because then you would actually get access to the top of the filter. But here she is. She's all done. She's looking pretty. I'm so happy with this, how this turned out. This was a filter on a budget. Now, of course, the filters themselves are the most expensive part of this whole thing. I think I spent $30 on the pots, $40 on the spigot. That could be cheaper. The filters were $150, but of course, depending on the size and the brand and what you need filtered out or not, that can vary in price. But for sub $300, I am so happy I now have an off-grid water filter. The water tastes amazing. My sister visited and was jealous. She said, I have beef, and now you've ruined water for me forever. And I can't agree more. I think I won't drink water any other way. I hope this video was helpful for y'all today. I'm on a journey for more self-sufficiency. If you're into that kind of thing, then give me a follow, and I will see you in the next video.